Perfect. So let's go over the brief for the mobile app. We'll have to design two screens as a pitch idea for the mobile app of the doggy daycare. So remember in the responsive website, we had the idea of maybe this company kind of branding themselves with the idea of having an available mobile app for the dog owners so they can kind of check up on things and maybe add their contact details in there and update them easily and so on and so on. So the main audience would be the dog owners who already have their dogs sign up for the daycare. The app needs to allow the dog owners to manage their dog's profile, view schedule, add requests for the daycare, receive and respond to notifications, and manage their own contact details. So this app also needs to have the ability to access the live stream, which sounds like a neat feature, directly from the daycare, so you know that you can kind of check up on your dog when they're there. And also, one important note is that the app will be built hybridly for both iOS and Android with React Native. So React Native is basically a technology that developers can use to build an app with one source of code for both iOS and Android. Sometimes when you're going to be working on projects, you might have your development team working with a technology like that that's going to help build a hybrid app. And sometimes you're going to have a dedicated iOS development team and Android development team. Right now, a lot of apps have actually been built with React Native, like Airbnb, Instagram, and so on. So a couple of these popular apps that you have been using, most likely, are actually built hybridly, and you don't... it's kind of hard to guess that it was done that way, and it didn't involve... native development. So yeah, now that we have an idea, let's move into our UI Basics kit. And in our UI Basics kit, we're gonna go over the iOS app screen. I always pick like one of the smaller ones. So the one that's 375 in width is usually my go-to choice. And in here you can see that I've also built a couple of other things into this template. So it's not just the frame size. You also have the home indicator. You have the status bar on the top. You also have like guides that you can follow and you can break once you get a hang of everything. When it comes to building the bottom navigation bar and other elements in your design. So I was trying to kind of think of what to do in here, how many options based on the brief we'll actually need for the main navigation, and I'm just kind of building up the frames from here. You can kind of, as with all of other videos, you can always pause things and kind of do it to be able to replicate what I'm doing if you want to follow along exactly. If you have a different way of solving this navigation problem, like do it. There is no one way of doing things in Figma. The way that I'm building things is very efficient for me. But if you find a kind of a quicker way to do things, perfect. In here you can see that I've built a frame that's going to contain all of the 5 main tab bar options, and I've set up the auto layout so that it kind of works well. So the frames are actually using the base number 8 for everything, while the spacing between those elements is not going to stay consistent. And I've placed it into the one other frame that's going to be the entire bottom bar that also has the home indicator inside as well. Just so that I can easily place items. So I'm looking up all of the details that I'm going to need for this app, and I'm actually going to have a style that's not really included in any of the styles that I would be actually using in our design system, and that's because it's just like a little bit too big, honestly. So you can see me breaking it and moving from 13 to 11. Usually when you're working with the bottom navigation bar, you're going to be working with sizes like 10, 11, 12 tops, depending on the font that you've chosen. And that's because that's the only place where you already have an icon, so the text is just a little descriptor. In all of the other areas, I really do not recommend going below 12, and ideally keep everything above 13, 14. when you're working on mobile phones. I know that like 16 would be ideal for like long paragraphs of text, but also I know that you can't really use 16 for absolutely everything that you're going to have on mobile apps, especially if there's going to be graphs and things like that. So in here you can see that I'm going to keep this component that's going to be the bottom navigation bar item. Just inside this file, I don't really need to add it into the library because it's only going to be used on the mobile app. In here, I've replaced all of the frames inside with this, and I can easily now switch from the selected state to unselected state, and I can also add icons as instances that I can then easily replace as I'm building up this navigation. So maybe something like a stream. I was trying to figure out if I already have a good icon for it. But yeah, I think I ended up going just with the eye because it kind of represented watching something happen in real time. And I'm gonna build the user is usually something that I put, or like profile or settings is something that I put as the fifth option. I just feel like it's the most common place that you see that navigational item in your mobile apps. And here, trying to make the text also easily accessible from the main component, and reordering it a little bit now. So it's just kind of, as I've said multiple times already, you're going to be playing around with things. You're going to notice that you're doing something often. If you're doing something often, kind of like, what's the easier way for me to be able to quickly access it? And yeah, you can see in here that we now have a navigation that's done and it's selected. Another thing that you can also do is maybe like decorate it in a custom way. And that's not something that I would suggest like just going and changing. Talk with your developers first, but you can see me in here kind of trying to figure out how to make this icon feel even more selected than anything else on the navigation. Now I'm going in here to copy the logo, and I'm going to drag it into the screen later. But in here, same thing as I did with the website. Instead of this being a circle, I actually decided to use this decorative element as something that I'm gonna have behind all of the selected navigation options. And I'm trying to figure out what would be the best size. Do I need to rotate it a little bit? And those are a couple of those items where people are actually going to notice, like, ooh, there's something that's, again, repeating from the like branding aspect or something else. And those are the things where you can be really creative as a designer. I just wanted to test if the navigation is working even with the updated options, and it is. So like everything seems to be in place. I can now start building up the screen. As you're gonna see with a lot of these designs, I'm actually gonna focus on reusing as much as I can from everything that we already have defined in our library, but I'm also slowly going to be updating things in the library as well as I see the need for those things. So in here, I'm just trying to test of the kind of get a sense of the layout that I want to build for this screen, and I'm trying to figure out what's going to be needed on a home screen, since a lot of the items like schedule, stream, alerts, and profile, all of those things seem like they can also be something that's kind of hinted on the home screen, and you're going to see a lot of apps doing that. You're going to have elements like the home or main screen is going to be like a welcome screen that has everything that you need to know at a glance, and then if you want to dive in deeper, you're going to use navigation or the items presented on the home screen to be able to navigate to there. Again, a couple of these things in the beginning is just trying to define the style and trying to define some of the elements that are used in here to see what's going to work best. I definitely knew that I wanted to provide the pet owner an immediate sense of like everything's fine, don't worry, your pet is safe, your pet is taken care of. So that's what this kind of main element on the top is going to represent. It's going to be a card that says basically Sophie is in good hands as the name of the pet, and there's going to be a little descriptor letting the owner know when is their pickup scheduled. So for example, it's 5:30. Let's say that this person is working until like 4:30, so that gives them enough time to go to the daycare and pick up their pet. And in case they're going to be late, there's always an option for them to kind of quickly update it from here. So you can see. Again, copy is not something that is going to be just like clicking for you immediately. But I played around with a couple of options in here to figure out what seems like it's going to best let the user know what they're able to do from here. And now I can easily build all of these simple elements that I've used in a card in an auto layout form as well. As you can see, there's a title, there's a little descriptor, there's also a link, and there's a little photo, and everything else is a background. So feel free to think about like how you would approach building this as an auto layout item. Again, auto layout and components are actually making sense when you're building a project for a longer amount of time. If you're just building a website and the project is going to take you like 2 or 3 days or like a week, I don't think you're gonna get a lot of benefit from playing around with components too much. But if it's something that is gonna be a longer project and you're gonna have a lot of review rounds and you're gonna have a lot of testing and you're gonna have multiple people working on this file, which is basically how UX, UI, and product design projects are looking, then you're gonna be required to actually create components and create styles and create everything. So all of these advanced options that we went through the course, that's the true power in them when you're actually having the reason to build those things the way that we've built them so far. In here, again, just trying to think of a way to maybe expand upon this card so that's that it's a little bit better. You can see that I'm now starting to actually create an auto layout from all of these, and I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to organize items in here. I'm still not sold on the idea of the button, but I wanted to test it, and you're going to be testing a lot of ideas when you're going to be designing. In here, I wasn't really feeling it too much, and that's one of the reasons why you're going to see the button disappear soon. And one other thing is you're never going to know with user-generated content. So like this photo of a pet that we're guessing that the user uploaded at one point. You're never going to be sure that it's going to work with the background of the element that you're going to use. So one thing that I like to do for all of those like avatars or photos, I do add a little bit of a stroke like you've seen in here. And that stroke is going to be kind of help you differentiate the photo from the background. So in case I have a white card and I also have a white avatar, I'm not going to have a problem where the user is not going to be aware of where the avatar is kind of laying. In here, I've noticed that the text felt a little bit too light, so I went to the library and I updated it to be a little bit more medium weight for all of the use cases that we have in here. And now I'm just kind of nesting auto layouts so that this is working the way that I feel like it should be working. And I think we're getting to a point where this card is going to be over. I think we're almost at a half of everything that I've done for the iOS app. And you might be thinking like, what? We haven't done anything. We just built the navigation on one card. But another thing that really happens with projects, like it really just takes you a couple of moments to start and kind of start building things. And then from there, you're going to be mostly copying and kind of revisiting the rules that you've put on yourself to build a consistent user interface. And then you're as you can see in here, I'm just kind of copying this title, I'm pushing it a little bit down, and I'm trying to figure out what else is needed on the screen. Again, sometimes you're going to be the one driving all of these decisions, and that's going to happen usually a little bit later in your career. As you're going to get more experience, you're going to be the one that's kind of even thinking of everything that needs to be on the screen. So you're going to be taking more of that role of a product designer, someone who's thinking of all the features and all of the things that are needed, who's going to be conducting testing and planning the strategies based on those insights for the product. But until that happens, usually the project is going to be a little bit more drafted for you. So don't worry, in your first design job, you're not going to be expected to basically think of absolutely everything that's going to be needed on the screen and how it's going to work together. There's most likely going to be either a senior team member who's going to help you with those things, or a product manager or a client who's going to define the requirements for this project in here. So when you're looking at this, know that I'm also doing a lot of these decisions based on my previous experience, and in no shape or form are you required to just kind of sit down, design, and just basically think of the entire app and what it's gonna include and involve. In here, I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to style a couple of these notifications, to ensure that I can still add more of them later on if needed. And you can see that basically this screen gives me an overview of everything that I need to know. I have a quick overview of how my pet is doing, when I need to pick them up, how many days I still have left in my daycare subscription. And in here I have a basically in your face status of the notification, so I know that there's nothing that's requiring my attention right now. And the copy is also kind of helping me sit back and relax to communicate to me that there's nothing I need to worry about, everything's good. Again, these colors are also presenting that as well. One thing that I did differently in here is, instead of using a title on the top, I actually ended up going with a logo. I just felt like this is the home screen, so and there's this playful logo that can help build a connection with this company and brand. So I just used that instead of a title. And now I'm moving on to the second screen, and I thought a little bit about what I wanted the second screen to be for. So you can see there's a couple of things that we have in the navigation on the bottom. And I ended up going with something where I can maybe signal that this app, since it's so playful, maybe we can also use an illustration for some of the empty states. Empty states in design are screens that are kind of solving the problem of a case where nothing is available when it comes to information, or like everything's good, so there's nothing that you need to do. So I grabbed this illustration. As I've said, like, unfortunately the illustration is something that was done by another designer, and we've paid for it with our free pick subscription. But you can definitely find some free illustrations and items in a lot of the resources that we share on Instagram, that other creators share on Instagram, that you can just easily Google yourself, and so on and so on. In here, I wanted to show you how quickly you can grab an illustration that was custom done for like any type of project and really make it your own by editing the colors quickly with Figma, which is also an advanced topic that we already covered in the course previously, but now you can really see it in action and see it be used in a design. So in here you can see that we have this alert screen. I switched the navigation on the bottom to kind of represent that. Since the illustration is centered, I wanted to make this entire description centered as well. But I kept the title of the screen kind of aligned to the left, because that's usually how iOS and other apps are working, so people are used to seeing that. And even though it's a hybrid app, so it's built with kind of not native iOS technology, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't make this app feel as iOS as possible for all of the people that we have in who are using our app. And another thing that I wanted to include in here is show you how you can add icons as actions into your top bar. And now I'm grabbing the element that I had on the left that says nothing requires your attention to showcase like a history of previous alerts that were here. Right now there's nothing that's requiring my attention, so there's this happy puppy laying on a pillow and kind of enjoying themselves. But if there was an alert that would require my attention, it would definitely be somewhere on the top, and I would still have to think about like, is illustration needed in here, or is it just better to put so much focus on the actual alert, maybe making it red or something. Just like thinking about different things, how you can ensure that the person is not going to miss this alert. So I would even put it on the home page. I would definitely send a notification to the person. I would have it as like a history item that's in here, fighting for the attention of the user. And here you can see me again using auto layout to kind of organize this element the best that I can to ensure that it's working as it's supposed to. And now I can easily create multiple of these and just make it a list of items that are going to be used like this. One thing that I'm just kind of playing around is seeing like, is the spacing going to be in this auto layout, or is it going to be directly in the component in here? And even if I don't create a component from it, if I were building this app and I needed to create like a couple of versions of the home screen, there's definitely going to be a lot of states in the schedule screen. The stream is going to be requiring at least a couple of screens, alerts, profile, and so on. So this might quite quickly become an app that requires at least 50 screens. Not all of them are going to be like actual screens. Some are just going to be states of screens, but it's definitely something that I can envision happening if I were to build the entire app in here. So I just wanted to ensure that even the work that I'm doing right now, that's for the demo purpose, is showing you how you can use Figma to actually design. That you can also plan for the future use cases of this app and the design process that's going to happen. And one thing that you might have noticed in here is I actually made the icons a little bit lighter than the text is, just because they're often like having concentrated amounts of color, while the text is usually a little bit more spread out. So you want to stress the text a little bit more, and to make it feel visually balanced, I would use a lighter color for the icon, and it would still feel very consistent. Hopefully you can kind of notice that happening in here. Now, when it comes to the stream screen, the only thing that I really wanted to cover was to ensure that there is a way for you to view your pets having fun in this daycare. And I also envision this entire area probably having multiple cameras, so you can kind of switch around and look for your pet, which could be a fun game in its own as well. So I just placed this stream on top, and now I need to add the option for you below where you can kind of go through the cameras that are available. And the way that I envision that is I would have maybe like a drop down or something where you can just pick your camera, and then also arrows to the left and right that would allow you to switch between the cameras as well. One thing that I've noticed in here, and I didn't when I was building the doggy daycare library, is that the inputs were aligned like to the top left and not to the center left. So in here I did that change, and then another problem happened where the icon wasn't aligned the way that I wanted it to be aligned. So I'm just kind of doing some checks in here, in the library and updating it so that it fills in the space that it's supposed to. And here you can see that all of this text was actually not filling the container, and that was the problem that I had. So I just kind of quickly selected all of those and updated them so that they actually fill up the library in here. Publish changes. You can now see that it's applied in here and it's aligned the way that you would expect it to. One of the reasons why I added the buttons to the left and the right area is because I knew that it might be kind of hard if you're switching from like camera 2 to camera 3 to just tap on the drop down and then tap on the one of the options in the drop down. And here I just added arrows to the left and right that you can kind of just use to quickly tap between. With just one tap, it would allow you to go from camera 2 to camera 3, for example. And that's another part of you being a designer, is like trying to envision all of these use cases and kind of making some of the redundant work a little bit easier with your design. So here, again, trying to make the spacing consistent and kind of have everything look like it's a part of an app. In here, I try to figure out, do I really need an action here on the top? And honestly, I think in the end, I even removed it because I didn't see a need for it. So yeah, that's all for the iOS app. I ended up building 3 screens just because like the stream one was really simple. But it showcased a lot of the things that I would be thinking and doing as I'm designing. And now let's see what are the adjustments that we need to do to actually create Android versions of the same app for this hybrid way of building an app.